The more you can understand about how you show up and how others need to be coached and developed, when you can have that self-awareness, boy, it really changes how effective you can be in bringing teams together, to growing talent, to finding a business opportunity over here with the person who needs it just right now, who can grow in their career, and connecting those two things.
Talk to me about what an amazing marketer in 2026 looks like.
Having a good idea is not nearly good enough. In a business-to-business sense, kind of sits in between the two most powerful levers out there. One is, the other is oftentimes. What marketing does is it can amplify those two incredible leaders. The best marketers and the marketers of this age understand the complete product life cycle, understand the complete customer sales cycle, understand the complete customer cycle.
Where do people lie between fear and excitement about AI? How do we move people from fear to excitement?
When we look at the consumer patterns and practices of AI adoption, those quickly need to become business patterns and practices. All you really need to do is show people the potential and show people what they can go do. And people quickly see it, it's an enabler.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready whenever you are, bud.
Alrighty. I want to start with aligning your LinkedIn bio. I always loved it, a bit of research beforehand. And this was the last one, actually. This is where it ends. And I am passionate about developing amazing teams and exceptional people.
Yeah.
How did you do that 10 years ago? And how is that different to how you do that now?
No, that's a fun question. Know thyself, I guess, is the short answer, and I'm happy to elaborate. As you know, you progress in your career and you get more experiences, you get to work with more people. You know, one of the things you realize is knowing yourself as a leader, knowing yourself as a manager, allows you to meet people where they're at and allows you to have better insights about what they need. You know, we jokingly talk in our household about, like, you know, do you know everyone's love language? And, you know, how people, you know, like to receive feedback, how they like to receive recognition. What are the things that are important when they're doing those things? Same in the work. Like, we all bring our own authentic self to work. We all have our own areas. And the more you can understand about how you show up and how that affects others, and then the more you can be inquisitive and learn how others need to be coached and developed. How do they need to have given feedback, and how people receive feedback differently. And when you can have that self-awareness, boy, it really changes how effective you can be in bringing teams together, to growing talent, to finding the business opportunity over here with the person who needs it just right now, who can grow in their career, and connecting those two things. And that's really, really powerful. But you have to be really self-aware, I think, to be an incredible leader. And it takes time, sometimes a journey, to get to that self-awareness, even though we all think we know how we'd say it and whatnot. It turns out you have to go through some life experiences usually.
Talk to me about that one step further and talk about knowing thyself.
Yeah.
Outside of work, how have you found yourself more? What are, like, the major life events that you've used to cultivate that self-awareness?
Yeah, family's a big one. Like, your family's the best mirror. All right, so I've got 4 kids, incredible wife, who's an executive as well. And it turns out your kids will be the best mirror for you. If, like, you know, I have a son who he's in college now, but as we grew up, we'd go at each other and talk, and my wife and the other kids used to joke, it was like seeing, you know, 2 dogs staring at each other in a mirror, just barking at each other, and they're like, you're the same person. And so, you know, I think it all goes back to, you know, we all have tendencies, we all have things that, you know, kind of our default ways of showing up. You know, as a leader, one of the things I know is I'm more of a directive leader. So I have an idea, I think this is where we should go. If there's a little bit of space in the room, I'll kind of fill it. And it took me a while to learn that's okay in certain situations, but in many cases, from a leadership perspective, you want to be in the back of the bus.
Yeah.
You actually want to be the last one to speak. You want to be the one that lets everyone else have a voice, and then you share your perspective, and create that space for others to lead. Because if I'm always first to talk, if I'm always first to point out a direction, it really shuts down the reel. Yeah. And, you know, it took me, you know, years of practice and lots of mistakes to learn little simple things like that go a long way to changing your effectiveness as a leader.
Awesome. I want to get something verbatim. Okay. So you were on the Marketing Millennials podcast. I was listening to it before this and earlier this week as well. And we're talking about the difference, or how there shouldn't be a difference between marketing and product.
Yeah.
So the exact words are following: I firmly believe in a line, the marketing is a product is marketing. I never want to be part of an organization or team where there's a divide between marketing and product. Talk to me about what an amazing marketer in 2026 looks like and how this comes into the conversation.
what an amazing marketer in 2026 looks like. Yeah, I would look at it kind of in maybe 3 or 4 buckets. First, if you think your job is just to take what somebody else has built or somebody else's idea and then just kind of bring that to market, you've greatly misunderstood what marketing is. Marketing, in a business-to-business sense, there's many different types of marketing, but business has, kind of sits in between the two most powerful levers out there. One is the product. The other is oftentimes your sales team. And so what marketing does is it can amplify those two incredible levers. But having a good idea is not nearly good enough. Because if your good idea about shaping product strategy or shaping product innovation or transforming how do we go to market with our sellers or our customers, etc., doesn't inform and infuse into one of those two levers, then you're just sitting in the middle having a good idea all by yourself. It's a party of one. So the best marketers and the marketers of this age understand the complete product life cycle, understand the complete customer sales cycle, understand the complete customer cycle. And they are showing up at every point of that cycle, understanding how do I make this 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% better? And their strategic thinking and their thoughtfulness and their depth of understanding of the customer means all those levers around them and want to pay attention. If you're a great marketer and you're not invited to the product strategy reviews, you're probably not doing something right. If you're a great marketer and you're not invited to the sales strategy planning meetings, probably not doing something right. And those are kind of like good little checks for people as they think about growing in their career.
Interesting. So with them being in that middle point and having their hands in everything, something you've mentioned before is that with the future of work, we need to move from doers to orchestrators, so almost. What do you imagine the future of work to look like for most people?
I think it's pretty exciting. I get to work on this incredible product Slack, where it's really this work platform, really, for bringing together all of your teammates and collaborating on your teammates, now bringing together all these agents, and then things like agent force, so as third-party agents, and having them act like teammates. And for the first time in history, whether you are brand new to the workforce or you've been there for 20 years and got lots of gray hair like I do, you run more than I like, but you run a team. Let's say you just got hired, you're an intern. You're going to have a team.
Yeah.
And that team is going to be a bunch of digital coworkers that are going to be there that you get to direct. You're going to have someone who's there for you to support on finance. You're going to have your own HR assistant. You're going to have a creative team member. You're going to have a developer who can build things. And so when we talk about orchestrating work, the typical patterns and practices of work in BAS is you join, you work hard, you're an individual contributor, and then you work really hard and someone says, now you get to be a manager. You get to lead people and you scale your impact to people. Well, that's kind of not going to happen. On day one, you get to scale your impact through agents. And that potential, maybe you walked in the door, maybe you're incredible at analytics and you're a great finance person. Well, it turns out you get to be a developer today. And tomorrow you get to be someone who creates incredible ads. And the day after that, you get to be someone who can go and work in, the HR department and understand customers and customer success and sales. That unlimited potential that gets to surround employees right now is not just exciting and empowering and, makes the jobs more fulfilling, but if you back all the way out, what it really means is growth. It means employee productivity and these new capabilities is going to be the fastest accelerator for top line business growth I think, the world's ever seen. And that's why a lot of adjectives get used when talking about this moment in time that we're in, because employee productivity is the most unheralded growth lever right now that sits in front of every company. Well, does that make sense? I was along.
It does, and I want to take that one step back almost. Yeah. So you're talking about the potential for these employees to orchestrate, to manage from day one, right? As humans, do we all innately have that capacity and that ability in us? For me, I've been building this business for 2.5 years now. Yeah. So the part of the business that I least enjoy is the management, is the delegation, right? I enjoy doing the thing. So I'm wondering, for people first coming into this, how many people actually fit into that bucket of wanting to do that?
Yeah. Well, the wonderful news is it's a player opt-in choice. I don't know, use a gaming analogy. You could decide to do the campaign mode, or you could decide to go online and join your buddies. There's no path that is set on these types of things. The other piece is, something I've heard people talk about before is, well, if everyone's managing all these agents, who's teaching them how to be a good manager? Like, isn't that a learned practice? Isn't that something, like, to my opening when we were talking about, like, something you learn through experience? It absolutely is. But what better place to learn how to effectively mobilize a workforce and delegate than with a bunch of these autonomous agents that you can direct with no feelings.
Yeah.
No, for right now, no feelings, no issues if you get it quite wrong, if you have to scold them because they didn't get the answer quite right. And so it's an incredible place to actually learn some of these skills.
Yeah.
And to your point, everyone kind of gets to find the things that they really love doing as humans and really dive deep into those.
Yeah.
And then let's find the things that we don't enjoy doing, the things that part of our jobs that is the 15 or 20% are like, I don't want to be doing this. And let's delegate that work as best we can to agents that we can offload a lot of that busy work. And, the reality is you talk to customers all day, whether they be some of the most innovative companies out there in the world, the OpenAIs and Anthropics, all the way through the biggest companies, IBM, ADS, there's still a lot of work out far. Like, you sit in these organizations, there's a lot of traditional software. I'm hunting for information and spending time looking for a document or a file. And that work is just draining human potential. It's draining company growth. And, that's the kind of stuff that we just get to slowly shed. And that's part of the reason why Slack's having such a moment right now, where companies are looking into this as work platform, kind of this agentic enterprise, as if you've ever been talked about at Dreamforce.
I mean, I love it. Like, we've been using Slack for a while. We could use it as our operating system. Like, that's where we live. That's where we want to live as well. Whenever we're building automations from other apps, it so can build transcripts into Slack, and so we can handle emails from Slack.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Well, thank you for being a customer. We appreciate it.
I'm curious, when you're building these agents out, are we building agents to understand how humans communicate? Are we trying to train the humans to understand how agents communicate?
Good question.
Because there's dissonance there right now.
Yeah, good question. We have a product principle inside of Slack. There's two of them actually that come to mind when you ask that question. One is, don't make me think. And it's just the simple idea of, as I come into the product, I shouldn't have to learn the Slack way or that. It should just be intuitive. This should just kind of go through. And the second principle is be a great host. And how do we bring people in, like coming into our house and provide a great host? And in this case, we think about being a great host for agents, and you combine that don't make me think. It's like, well, agents should just work like teammates. You already know how to work with your colleagues in Slack. You shouldn't have to learn a new way to work with agents. They should just be there. You should be able to mention them, add them to a channel, ask a question. One of your other friends should be able to, like, well, I saw the question Liam asked. Let me follow up with that and get a question. You should be able to ask them to take action. Can you create this canvas for me and build this out? Get this ready for a list for me, my to-dos to get this podcast scheduled, whatever it is. That all should just feel intuitive. And so in that case, it's really saying, how do agents resemble the patterns and practices of working with your teammates so it's easy to bring them into the flow of work without kind of figuring out a new way of doing something? Now, there are some nuances. Like, one of the things you'll learn is, and we've learned as we've gone through this journey, when you bring an agent into a channel, let's say that channel in Slack has 15, 20 people. Well, some people are a little nervous to ask the agent a question because they don't want to kind of expose maybe the question they're asking the agent. And maybe they feel a little nervous about, like, will it make it look like I don't know the answer or whatever? So, we've learned some of these patterns and practices and said, great. So when you're in a channel and you've got an agent and you want to ask the agent a question, that agent will respond just to you first. So you'll ask that agent a question. It responds just to you. Only you can see your response. And then you are in control of releasing that response out to the channel. So you get that response back. Maybe it was great. And you're like, oh, this is perfect. Everyone should know this. I can then release that back to the channel and everyone can participate in that conversation. So it's not just a one-for-one of it works exactly like it is with teammates. We have to be thoughtful about some of the, the social kind of, fears and sometimes that can come through this, or just new patterns of practices of working. But we do want it to feel as intuitive as working with teammates in Slack. And a big piece of that is the conversational context that exists in Slack that make agents smirk.
I want to talk more about your employees and what you're looking for.
Sure.
Do you think, where do people lie between fear and excitement about AI? There's obviously a lot of conversation about, like, jobs being displaced, what am I going to do? A lot of customer service jobs are just being cut. I think it's 4,000 in Salesforce. Where are people at? How do we move people from fear to excitement?
Yeah. Well, I personally, I can talk about myself. I've used a ton of like AI tools and all sorts of fashions and functions. And I haven't noticed on myself like taking Fridays off and be like, I've got all this free time. And so, as has always happened in these major transformations, the productivity curve goes up, the output of what we can do at work goes up, which just means the expectations continue to go. And what we can deliver and how fast we can deliver it just goes from, weeks to days, days to minutes, etc. But it is still the human potential. It's still humans at the center of work that are now taking these tools and doing things bigger, faster, and better. And it's sometimes easy to forget just how quickly things change and how quickly even like our patterns and practices change. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, I kind of can't remember the last time I navigated to a website to find information.
Oh, yeah. Probably stay for me.
Perplexity, asking Siri, grabbing your phone, you're going to ChatGPT. Like, that wasn't the case, the year ago? You're still, and so when we look at like the consumer patterns and practices of AI adoption, those quickly need to become business patterns and practices. And that's why Slack, as this conversational interface for work, is such a perfect platform for this moment in this agentic era. And all you really need to do is show people the potential and show people what they can go do. And people quickly see it. It's an enabler. This is the thing that's going to give me superpowers. Sounds cliche, but it's kind of true. I might have walked in the door with this skill set, but when I use this stuff, I have a whole array of skills that I never have. Like the entire marketing team can become developers.
Yeah.
How many times, has a company sat and said, well, we wish we could do that, but engineering's boss. Like they've just got no more resources right now. We can't do that other thing else. So we're like, all right, I guess we got to reprioritize or change strategy or whatever. Like that doesn't have to be the case anymore. Like build it, just go. And what happens when like an engineering team of, 100 people, 200,000 people just became an engineering of 50,000 people because everyone became builders. So that showing and showcasing that vision isn't hard, and people's light bulb goes off. And, if they're walking in the door with a little bit of fear of like, wow, this feels hard, or this feels like a big shift or things like that, you show them some of those things. And quickly they realize, so like, wait, I can be a builder just by doing the thing I already know how to do, which is talking to Liam.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Giddy up. Let's go. And that's kind of what's happening. So I think a lot of that fear is going to dissipate. And I think people are going to lead into this kind of moment. And I think it'll be pretty empowered.
I think we're at a unique perspective where when we first got into work, I'm 26, so still got into work recently when I was like 15. But a lot of like my first 5 or 6 years of working in the world were like repetitive, mundane tasks. And although we're talking about eliminating them with AI, I do think there's some sort of value in there of kind of starting from the bottom and just understanding what it is at like a base level.
Yeah.
What happens in this utopian society where everyone just comes in and they're orchestrating and making beautiful things? Would you, like you said you got, 4 children?
Yeah, I do.
How old are they?
There are 3. I got 3 in college age and 1 still in high school.
Okay. So how do you think about that? Like, should they still get a server job and do something else first before they move into orchestrating the world?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think 2 things are true. One, I have no idea what the job my kids are going to be doing will look like 10 years. I really don't.
I probably could even name them.
Yeah, and what the categories would be, and I wish I could because I want to give them coaching and tell them all the right things to go do. The biggest thing I tell them is be curious and really lead into everything that's happening now and in the future, and thankfully they are. That said, to your point of like, hey, like, isn't there always some journey that we all go on? Like, someone who's going to be a professional fisherman has to start by gutting fish at the docks and, working the nets and whatever. I don't know, it's a random analogy, but this is the one that came to mind. I
used to be a fisherman back
my grandfather in Alaska did. So I kind of have some imagery of that. That form of learning and growth and trying by doing is always going to exist. It'll just be different. it's not that everything's going to be like software is just perfect and solves all the problems, or we all have access to this big AI brain that does all of our thinking for us. We're going to have an incredible set of new tools. But I think if we looked, last 5 years and compared that to 40 years ago, people would be like, "Oh, it's too easy." When the people have a computer in their pockets,
Yeah.
like, how are they ever going to learn? And so this transition is a tried and true one through history. And, people get to do what people do best, which is bring their human potential, bring their curiosity, bring the desire for connection and learning and growth, and bring that with the latest tools that we have and figure out how we can amplify what makes us great. And so I firmly believe that pattern and practice from the past will continue, even in this new world that feels, maybe newer and more exciting, and maybe sometimes even a little more scary than the past.
What was your first job?
Well, you got to go way back. It depends on how you define job, but I started by mowing lawns in the neighborhood. My first job where I was getting, paid by a corporation was a paper boy.
Yeah.
I delivered in Chicago and Illinois here in the States. I delivered Chicago Tribune and the Sun Times in the mornings, and then the Wheaton Daily Journal after school. So I had 3 paper routes when I was in elementary school. Yeah.
What's one thing you learned from that you still carry with you today?
Oh, little story time. So the answer to your question, the very direct answer, is the value of hard work and being proud of the work that you're doing. The quick little story time is Chicago. Chicago gets very humid in the summer. In fact, it gets so hot and humid, sometimes they tell people don't go outside because it's dangerous. And we were having one of those days. I had to do my afternoon paper out, and my mom, and father, but my mom, instilled in a hard work ethic as us as kids growing up. And I was rolling my papers in the garage, getting ready to go out. My mom says, "Call me when it's time for you to go out." And I was like, thank goodness, I'm not going to have to get on my bike. She's going to take me in the family station wagon, drive me around to throw my paper so I don't have to be out in this 110-degree heat. And instead, she put me in the yard, and then she Pulp Fiction style hosed me down like a criminal in the front yard, get completely hosed down. And she says, "Go do half your lap and come back and I'll hose you down again." And mess the roof. And then I realized, I was like, okay, if you're going to do a job, do a job, the job was hard that day, but it had to be done. And so you do what you have to go do. And so I think that kind of that idea is, if you're going to do something, do something. You're going to do a job and commit yourself to that is something that stuck with me since those really early days of paper route.
Yeah. I got 2 questions.
It's the first one I've shared. I haven't shared that story.
I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. I got 2 questions to finish off. Firstly, a hypothetical for you. You are the same age as your kids just today. You're 22. You're straight out of college, straight out of university.
Yeah.
You get your first job, let's say it's at Slack. What do you want the role to be? What department do you want it to be in? Why? Well, let me frame it as this. Your goal here is to have the biggest chance of success.
Yeah. So I'll try to directly answer the question, but I'll give you my framework for how I answer the question. It's similar framework for what I tell my kids as well as tell people who work for me. There's a lot of anxiety right now. I notice about folks who are early on in career of picking the right path.
Yeah.
Picking the right job, being in the right field. And I sense that for my children. I get to talk to a lot of folks. And the number one thing I would say is put that down, let it go, because you're not helping yourself. Because there's no right field, there's no right job. There is a role that you can get into that you can kick butt on and you can do incredibly well. And when you do that, what happens? The amount of roles above you goes like this, it multiplies. And now the set of jobs that are open to you is 5 more than the one you took in starting. And then you crush that job. And then this happens. And now you have 15 more roles open to you. So the most important thing is to get in to a place that you'd be excited about and do a great job. Crush it. If that's in computer science, crush it. If that's in sales, crush it. Because people who do a great job have a lot of core basic qualities. Hardworking, can-do attitude, curious, ready to learn, want to see others be successful, are excited to make other people successful, and are ready to be a great member of the team. And when people do those kind of things, they crush it. And then they get lots of incredible opportunities that come out. Yeah. So that would be my number one advice. Worry less about the job, the role, and really get after the opportunity.
You're obviously very reflective, and I want to finish off with a question.
I don't know if I'm very reflective, but that's nice.
So you seem very self-aware and understanding of how you think. You have an operating system for how you think. I ask all my guests this same last question. I encourage you to take 5-10 seconds before you answer.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be in the context of work. I just mean this in general.
Okay.
Why do you do what you do?
I love seeing, kind of goes back to the question you asked me about LinkedIn kind of things. I get my motivation on two core factors at my base level. One, I love having an impact in the market that takes a long time, that I can wear like a steak for a while. And if I just elaborate on that a little bit, a lot of people I get to talk to say, oh, I did this job, then I did this job, I took this job, I took this job, then I took this job. I'm like, yeah, but what did you do? I always know the people who have an impact when they're like, here's the thing I did. Here's the impact I had. And it was hard. It took 4 years, but I achieved this in the market, this outcome, etc. And when you have those types of success, you carry it with you. People who just take a lot of different jobs kind of just washes off them after a while. It's kind of like, yeah, it was a job. So I always, seek to find the next impact, the thing I could say I did a job. And then the second thing is nothing is fun by yourself. And so when you can bring others along and you can grow and develop team members, or you can grow and develop talents, or you can do it as a team and you can feel like you're helping to bring an organization or a set of people together to go deliver that impact, and you can watch others grow and flourish in their career, that is always more fulfilling than your own individual successes, at least for me. So those are the two things that get me out of bed every morning.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thanks, buddy. Yeah.
Thank you. That was awesome.